All right, guys, and welcome back to our Talking Through the Media Studios here. We're in the studio right now. We're robed up because we just watched episode 2. We're playing catch up with Interview with a Vampire, me and my wife, Joy. Hey, babe. And
Oh,
I'll recap real quick of episode 1 during our show, The Rundown. I was like, this is a show that a lot of people are talking about. I mean, when you come to our channel and go, yeah, you should talk about it, I'm like, oh, damn. Well, I'm not going to deny that. That means this is one of those shows. I'm like, so it's, we usually do recaps for shows that we really, really like. This is one of them. We're going to recap episode 2. Had a really fancy title. I forgot the title real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Episode 2 was titled After the Phantoms of Your Former Self. I think that was like a play on words. Maybe that wasn't the Phantom of the Opera that they were watching, but I think by throwing the word Phantom in there, that's what it makes me think about it. It was an opera kind of a situation.
well, I mean, the whole episode was him still wanting to go back.
You mean Louis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go back home, go back, just act like nothing happened.
Yeah, he
and-
wants his cake and eat
Yeah.
it too, kind of a thing. He wants to be able to dabble between both worlds. So I have the synopsis here laid out thanks to Collider.com. We'll read each paragraph, and after every paragraph, we'll talk about our thoughts and a little recap of it. So let's recap the whole thing. Let's see. Dulac flexes his. Probably let me stop trying to be cool. Dulac flexes his power, even down to the detail of his Dubai home, where he's brought Molly for their redo. As they sit to dine together, their interview continues. Louis begins the story just where it left off after being transformed into a vampire in the church. Right into the where it picked up and the whole flexing of his Dubai home. I didn't recognize that was Dubai. I've been to Dubai. So I didn't recognize or he didn't hear that that's where they were. I don't think that's where they were in the first episode, right? Are they in the same city that they were in the, I don't think they're in the same city that they were in the first episode, but I can't recall.
They don't really specify. I'm assuming they're in the same place.
I would assume so too, but it kind of, yeah. I mean, he probably flew him into Dubai. I just didn't, I didn't hear it. If they mentioned it, I didn't hear it. In the first episode that's where they were, but I've been to Dubai and it's changed even a lot since the 10 years plus that I've even been over there. Lestat, Sam Reed disposes of the priest in the church graveyard. Louis stumbles behind, moaning and retching in pain. Lestat nonchalant explains that his body is dying. As Lestat dumps one of the bodies into an open, mausoleum? Is that how you say it? Mausoleum. Louis disposes a small pool. Louis notices a small pool of blood that has dripped from one of the corpses onto the ground. Lestat stops him, explaining that drinking from the dead is one of the few ways to kill a vampire. Not long after, Louis suddenly bursts into laughter, and the transformation is complete. What did you think about that scene? That whole graveyard moment.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, he was rolling around and crying and throwing up, and then all of a sudden he's just like
in heaven. It felt like a scene from Euphoria. Dude, he was totally high. That dude was on something that nobody ever heard of, hadn't been invented yet. But I thought it was funny how, and I read one of those blogs where it said like, what part did you laugh at? Like people are noticing like as dark as it is, there's a lot of things to laugh at. Mm-hmm. So I think didn't the interviewer say that to him? Dude, you were high as hell.
Oh yeah, he did. He was like, yeah, you're.
Like, I know drugs. That was a funny part. They drift from bar to bar. Lestat teaches Louis the art of the hunt. A viral sailor leading his friends to a drunken revelry catches Louis. Revelry. Revelry. I know the word. I've never used it before. So, pardon my lack of syntax here. That's why I use the word syntax to compensate it. Catches Louis' eye. He desires the sailor with something that straddles hunger and lust, making explicit the eroticism between vampire and victim. Lestat insists on letting food come to them. It does, in the form of a traveling tractor salesman. Lestat teaches Louis the art of seduction by keeping the man talking. That was a funny scene.
Oh yeah, and then on top of that, he's explaining we have to pick people that no one's going to notice is
Right.
gone, because he's like a whole group of sailors. They'll
Somebody's
notice
going to
if
notice.
he's not
Yeah.
there.
The army or whatever, the
That
Navy is
draws
going to notice
attention,
him.
and
Yeah.
we don't want attention.
Yeah.
This dude over here,
He's a nobody.
no one's going to
He's
care.
boring as hell, which was killing Louis. Louis was
Falling
falling
asleep.
asleep, and to a point where, or even Lestat had to step in. It's like you're mentally like you're making him nervous.
Like, pay
pick your ass,
attention.
get your ass up.
Okay, I'm
And
here,
even
I'm
Louis
back.
like,
Okay.
I like the way it looked like he was high even then. He was like, way straighten himself up, like, okay, I gotta get this crack. Okay, let's you know how a person that's like I don't know, I don't want to keep.
Well, he was definitely fiending, because he kept
Yeah.
drawing his attention, turning his head like, I
Yeah,
really want that dude over
there. Yeah, and it was, and I hate to keep. Euphoria is the closest TV show right now that's out right now that kind of explains it, because kind of what he's doing, like what Zendaya's character was going through. So yeah, it was pretty cool. At the first opportunity, Louis devours the man despite his attempts to fight back. This is after they got him back into the house. Afterwards, Louis is overwhelmed by the guilt, shame, and fear of killing for the first time. In his desperation to run from his action, Louis demands to go home. Lestat attempts to stop him, but is thrown against the wall, which was a very interesting situation there.
And of course, then he's all like, fine, do it, go.
Go, yeah,
Do what you want to do
Yeah.
then.
It was funny how Lestat.
It's like a parent. It's like, all right, you want to go home, go.
And I think I've heard that when a baby vampire first, it's like when you're with a newborn, you don't expect their grip to be as strong, and so people underestimate babies, and like it's stronger than than the baby even knows. That's probably what you were dealing with. They probably got so much burst of energy that he could have really caused some damage. Louis stumbles down the street, realizing a little too late the mistake he'd made. For every moment sunlight touches his skin, it burns him. When he happens upon a milkman, he quickly steals a bottle to pour over his head before running back to Lestat. The more mature vampire welcomes him back
like, yeah,
with
I told
open
you so.
arms and an apology for not warning him sooner about their vulnerability to sunlight. I said that was done on purpose.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
like,
because he knew. He's like, go on, do it.
Yeah.
You'll be back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he won't do it again.
You think you can quit me? I'm pregnant with your baby. That was like a next Friday moment right there. Yeah, he knew. Yeah, because he could have said, you can't go out there. The sunlight will kill you. You could have screamed it out to him or something like that. He did. He's like, all right, go home. Call
I
me
also
back.
kind of keep seeing, yes, I'm from the Twilight era.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Twilight, I don't know what we called ourselves. I watched them all. I read
twit.
them all. And I don't know if the writer Stephanie Myers was taking cues from this book, or if this
Because
because
his interview with the vampire definitely came before Twilight.
right,
definitely.
and I haven't seen it in so long,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never read the book, so I don't know if that's the cues she was taking, or if this series is taking cues from and reimagining things is taking cues from her. I don't know the answer to that, but I see a lot of similarities because,
But his skin twinkled.
well, no, Duloc talking about, because there's a lot of things in the Twilight movies saying that newborns are very dangerous. Because
Ah,
their
yeah, I think
power
you're right. That's
is
where
crazy
I heard.
wild,
That's where I heard
and
that.
they don't know how to control themselves. So
Yeah, newborn. Yeah, and which makes sense because it's all new to you. You're probably just running on pure instinct. It's like a zombie almost. You're just 100% id until you tap back into your common sense.
He makes references several times in talking to
The reporter
the reporter and saying, "I don't kill anymore.
since 2000.
I don't kill." Right. That he
Yeah, we had, what was that?
anymore.
We had an argument about Y2K.
And from Twilight.
Right.
Their
That's it. There
little
were a
group
family of
don't-
vampires that were like vegetarians almost, right?
They're
Yeah.
like, we don't kill.
Yeah,
We-
I mean
we
the
have
the concept of a vampire that doesn't want to kill. I've seen that multiple
They
times
felt
before
too
Twilight.
guilty doing it.
Yeah.
They felt like there was another way. So it was animals, and the one guy was a doctor, and so he had an infinite
Animals
blood
and
supply.
volunteers.
No,
Yeah.
well, in Twilight, the one was a doctor, so he had
Oh,
endless
he
supply
stole
to
blood.
blood bank.
Yeah, he stole blood.
They
yeah.
didn't use people at all. I mean, like
Well.
live. There were no volunteers. It
Yeah.
was a blood bank.
Which
and
which
animals.
technically is a smart way to do it. I mean, the way Louis was doing it, very smart. You bring you use your fortune. I'm sorry, there's not too many people out there in the world, especially nowadays, that's gonna turn down money. I was like, hey, I mean, because you're in a situation where, well, what happens if I say no? Like you're kind of screwed. I mean, you might as well take the money because if this dude knows that I know that what he is. I mean, what happens if I say no and he thinks that I'm a threat? Now, he might kill me now because he could. because he probably scouts the right people. But then on top of that, I'm sure there's a threat on top of it. You better say yes, or I'm just going to kill you.
They have I don't even know that they specify how many courses. He just says
15.
It was 15 because he goes, he'll be here when you get to your 7th course. And
how many
the reviewer was
courses?
like,
Yeah.
how many is it?
Yeah,
and he started with a bag of blood. Then he had a little animal.
Yeah, we're getting to that. But well, actually, no, it's not written in the thing. So yeah, it's best that you mention it. Yeah, it was a fox or something like that. It looked like a dog, some kind of a. And I remember that from the movie that Lestat, just to keep Louis fed him the blood of a rat, and then Louis argued with him like, if we can do this, why don't we just do it? He's like, you'll see. Because, I mean, you won't be able to handle it after a while. It's like empty. What is like empty calories or something like that. It was like it's a nothing thing. It's only a survival tactic, is what I think. What he said in the movie. It's to get you by if you can't find food or if it's too dangerous to take people. But it's only a survival method. It's not something you're going to want to live on. Trust me. And then I think.
Then he had his volunteer.
And that's why it's smart to have his volunteers. He had both. He had animals and people.
And then he had some people food.
Yeah. So as Louis learns to harness his powers and read minds, he attends a family party. Louis practices his mind reading abilities on his mother, Ray Dawn Chong, learning the depth of her rejection to him. When his sister, Grace, played by Colleen Coleman, jumps up to embrace him, the proximity of her body allows him to hear the beating of additional hearts. He admonishes his sister for not telling him about her pregnancy, but even she does not yet know that she is carrying twins. I thought that was a little foreshadowing and stuff. It's like, are we going to be dealing with a situation where he could be a threat to a baby? That's what I thought about that the second they were talking about it. So he seemed to be in pretty good control. I'm wondering. See, I'm real curious about that episode 5 that you guys keep talking about because it's got to be either something with the girl, who now I'm wondering, because I've seen the pictures of the I forgot her name again. I didn't see you last time. Kirsten Dunst's character. Now I'm wondering if it's a family member that he's turned in, that's playing that character, because she is a little black girl. So now I'm wondering if it's his niece or something like that. One of the twins maybe. And this shocking thing that's about to happen in episode 5, I'm gonna guess. Now if you guys are watching this right now and we haven't gotten to episode 5 yet, do not spoil it in the comment section, please. But here's my guess. The girl, he's turned one of his family members, that's his niece, and she's killed her grandmother. The grandmother's been killed. That's my guess. I don't know. If you want to play a speculation game, that's up to you. But that's where I'm at on that. But I thought that whole conversation was foreshadowing. Beyond this family, Louis struggles to leave his business behind. You were talking about that a minute ago. When he attacks and feeds on the alderman's lawyer
And that was
for
funny. That was
disrespecting him. He calls Lestat to help him dispose of the body. Lestat mocks Louis for his desire to continue to charade of a normal human life while putting it at risk by attacking someone so important at work. Louis argues back that Lestat doesn't understand what it's like for him. The unique ways that disrespect cuts like a knife as a queer black Creole man. I thought that was the most fascinating conversation, because I expected Louis to not, we're going back to the race card and we're back to this again, because Louis all like, you're a vampire now. Put aside this petty stuff.
Lestat also wants to be like, dude, I'm different. I know what you're talking about. And he's like, no. Yeah, you're different. But we are different.
Yeah.
You're different and my different are not the same.
Yeah. I'm sure it's probably like that even in the vampire world. You're still a white vampire in America.
It's not the same thing. We're not the same. And he goes, and even between us, you keep saying fledgling, like I'm your slave.
Yeah.
Like I'm your
that's how it is. It's knowing that that's how others are going to perceive it.
Yeah.
The way he had to walk behind them, the way he had to, because the second they walked into the opera, he was immediately getting those, why is that Negro on this horse looks, from Django Unchained. It's always there, especially during that time. I mean, there's no other ways about it. I'm hoping that if there's future seasons that we can get to like the 50s, the 70s, and the 90s, and stuff, especially the 90s. What the hell?
And of course, he keeps also pointing out Dulac. He's like, and despite being as mad as he gets with him, he's like, he has a way of drawing you right back.
Yeah, they have this. they have this couple.
And you just forgive, like, okay, it's fine.
They have this way of like the TV show The Honeymooners kind of way of bickering at each other and it's stuff like so it's
They
like
go to their little coffins, and he's all like,
yeah, you still mad? Like the way I be trying to nudge at you.
I'm sorry.
Joy wanted to go.
What can I do to make it up?
Joy wanted to go dancing the other day, and I was mad because it was I don't like taking going out at the last minute, and when we didn't go because I said you could go. I didn't want to. I knew I wasn't gonna go, but the rest of the night, Joy was giving me that same look that Lestat was giving Louis. Louis was giving Lestat or whatever, but anyway, that's a story for another day. Lestat's bedroom is still partially furnished, except for the addition of the second coffin. Both are resting when Lestat complains that he does not like to go to bed angry. We talked about that through the woods of the closed coffin. As he speaks, he lifts the lid of the coffin and waits for Louis to do the same. Lestat asks what he can do to make it up to Louis, and Louis asks him to buy him the fair play. And that little smile,
He opened his coffin up like,
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
what you can do is.
Yeah, and it was just like with me. I said, babe, okay, we didn't go down to the look. Do you want to go dancing this week? And then she was like, maybe. But the answer was yes. And so you got to, that was pretty much one of those happy wife, happy life kind of conversations right there with that one. Moving on to, did you eat the baby? 5 years have passed. Now, I didn't think that was a time jump. I thought that baby that he was holding was one of the twins. No, that was another baby. It was 5 years. So it's been a 5-year jump. 5 years has passed, mostly without Louis noticing. He has been away from his family for nearly all that time. When he goes to see Grace, she has more kids, including a newborn in her arms. When one of the older children begins screaming, she hands Louis the baby. And I should have known at that moment too. He holds the child with an awkward curiosity until the sounds and smells of the blood and aliveness is too overwhelming. Louis looks around for someone to help him resist the temptation. We return to the present day. Molly, the interviewer speaking for all of us, responds to his revelation with one question: did you eat the baby? Which only appears when his hunger is intensely aroused. Comes out despite himself. Did you eat the baby? That's all we kept saying. And it was
over and over. He just kept asking. And Delag just keeps talking about other things. And he's all like, dude,
it was weird.
Did you eat the baby?
Dude, I'm like, maybe he didn't because they are purposely drawing this out. And it's the obvious question: did you eat the baby? Because it's like that dude, that guy, Molly was probably like, if I'm gonna get up and leave if you ate the baby. But I'm sorry, it would have been a fascinating turn. But I was convinced. I was like, no way. He couldn't. He wouldn't have done that. He couldn't.
He threw it on the floor.
He didn't throw it on the floor. I would assume that leaving it. Maybe he realized putting a baby on the sofa might have been dangerous. The floor was probably the safest place. He probably gently put the baby down on the floor. I would have laid the baby like lined up with between the sofa, between the sofa cushions, like with the way it, the dip in the middle, so the baby can't roll. That's what I would have done. I saw that the sofa.
He doesn't know. He's never been.
Yeah, that's because. But I'm a father. I know those things. But
which prompts his next, because Lestat then scolds him and says, "You're working too hard. Mm-hmm. You're not eating." Mm-hmm. And he said you're not eating.
That's why you almost killed your nephew.
And then
or niece.
And then Dulac continues on with, I'm never going to have kids. Never, where's my life going to be? I'm never going to have a family. I'm never going to have anything. And Lestat's like, I'm your family.
Yeah.
And he's like,
I'm your baby.
It's not the same. To which Lestat does his typical, I have us matching suits. Let's go. Yeah,
immediately changes the subject. Look how pretty you're going to look.
We're going to match.
I got
go somewhere.
Look at these earrings going, ooh, it's going to pop. It's going to look great on you. I got to figure that trick out. I got to do that every time. Anytime I guess if Joy ever like, why was that bitch looking at you at the gym like that? Ooh, new purse. Ooh, ooh, look shiny. Louis avoids the question, opting instead to discuss the diet of other vampires, those using the COVID pandemic as a cover to feed. So I guess that answers my other question about the pandemic. And convert with abandon. As he speaks, another servant sits down next to Louis. The man offers Louis his neck and makes small talk while Molloy, I keep saying Molly, Molloy as he is drained and then released. And that dude that dude seemed like he was one of the loyal.
You forgot my snack. I need a juice and a cookie.
Yeah, that's what I was like.
And a
Yeah,
little
I was like, yeah,
weed.
oranges are in the kitchen.
He's
Go.
like falling over.
Yeah, it was like
Like, he'll be fine, don't worry
it's.
about it.
It seemed like it seemed like that's why he needs 15 courses or something like that. He needs to prep himself with all that other food first, because if he does the human first, he could kill him. So it's probably a thing that he's learned over the years to pace himself, to get a little blood back here, get something that was alive, and to quench that kill urge. That way he can pace himself when he's actually taking straight from the neck of a human. That's how I looked at it anyway. But it was interesting that because I asked that question about the pandemic, because they mentioned that the week before, and I'm like, I was wondering if the pandemic can, because they were being, remember, you noticed that the plastic and everything was being put down, that they were being so careful with the pandemic. Did you hear that part about him saying that the vampires used the pandemic to? Yeah, I didn't hear it either, but. Thanks to Collider for explaining that. Almost wrapping up here. Back in the flashback, Grace returns to find that the baby is on the floor, abandoned. We talked about that. When Louis returns home, he tells Lestat about the guilt and shame that he feels about nearly having eaten his nephew. Lestat reacts differently than Louis expects him to, reminding him of the inevitability of having to cut his family from his own life. He reminds Louis that it's unlikely that he will be able to maintain a relationship with his family as they age, and he does not. Lestat reassures a devastated Louis that they are family now. I've been neglected of our romance, Lestat admits, and produces tickets to an Italian opera and 2 brand new tuxedos. That's what we already brought down. He played the whole, you were going to look so pretty. Again, you're going to look so pretty. You're going to forget about almost killing your nephew when I take you to the opera. And then as dessert is devoured in the present day, Louis admits that he worshiped Lestat and that he would do anything for the privilege of more time with his creator in those early days. Louis is even thrilled to accompany Lestat to the opera, despite the fact that he could only attend by posing as his valet. That's just more of the whole the degrading thing about being a black man in America at that in any time.
The opera took its own turn. Music is my background, and
And Lestat is a very,
as a child for a very long time, music theory, music, pitch, whatnot. So
you heard it, yeah.
I totally get it. It is very unnerving to me to hear something that others are like, "Oh my God, that's so wonderful," and I'm going, "There was a lot
you were flat
wrong there." And so he's listening to this beautiful woman singing and being accompanied, duetted with a man who keeps hitting wrong notes, and everyone's like, "That's great."
That's great.
Like, no, it's not.
I think it also pissed him off that the other people couldn't hear it.
Yes, he was like, I don't think any of them noticed anything was wrong.
That
and I'm
pissed
like,
him
they
off even
probably
more.
don't, because I struggle with that when I point something out and then I realize, oh, I guess you guys don't really hear the same thing that I hear.
You uncultured swine. And they invite him back to the house,
Which he's basically just insulting him.
Yeah.
By like, here, no, I've made marks on my note here of all the
Oh
wrong
yeah,
notes.
I knew he was doing that when he cut himself and he started boom, boom, boom. I was like, he's picking specific parts of the paper to do
He's like,
that.
we're going to rehearse, and I'm going to show you. Right there. We're going to practice over and over again to get it right.
That dude looked tired, man. And then Louis was like, "Stop playing around with." He's already feeling guilty about killing people. Don't humiliate the man before you kill him.
Well, then he said
They
they killed. It took the entire night to kill him. They just drug it out.
Yeah, well, at least Lestat did, because Louis wanted to probably finish it right away. But even when, and then Louis said he only realized it later that when he stabbed the guy in the throat, it was twofold. It was to disable his ability to scream for help, and it was a wound that would drain him quickly, but not kill him fast. It would be able to keep him alive and keep him quiet, so he can make his insult to the opera punishment last a lot longer. What do you think about that?
But well, and he's really battling with his he's like, every time it's like, this is somebody's husband, brother, son, family member. Like, it's really getting to him that it's nothing for for Duloc, for Lestat, it's nothing to him
Yeah.
now. He's gotten.
He's evolved
it's
mentally.
Just like
He's evolved.
whatever. It's food.
Yeah.
But Duloc is still like, these are people.
Yeah. Louis, you mean? Louis.
Duloc, well, his last name, Louis.
Oh, Louis DeLocke, yeah.
That it's, these are people.
Yeah.
That somebody cares for them.
Yeah.
Like they belong to someone.
He's like, I care for him just like I care for a Big Mac. Yeah. But then we saw during the interview that he will eat regular food, and I was curious how that was going to go down because I've seen other vampire movies where if a vampire attempts to eat regular human food, it'll make them sick. But he said so in this universe, it just doesn't taste like anything.
It's like soapy.
Like soap or paste.
It's just
like
not,
nothing. It's just like
not
nothing,
good.
like flavorless gruel or something like that. It's just nothing, which isn't bad, which isn't good, and which isn't bad, which means his taste buds only react to whatever in the blood. And I'm sure maybe even in this universe, whatever the person fed on, or because they can taste disease, so whatever the person feeds on, maybe it can enrich the blood, maybe like pineapple with other things. Who knows, right?
He purposely picked a dessert that meant something to Molloy.
Mm-hmm. And Molloy and his wife, right? Like something about their
he
date.
was like,
yeah,
tell
yeah.
me what does, I know that this is something you like, why? And
And
he started talking about.
I assume maybe Lestat would be able to then tap into his reading his mind, and maybe that would make the food taste like something to him. But they didn't. But they didn't go. I was just assuming that that's what was going to happen, and maybe it will, maybe it won't. But that's what I assume. And then when the episode ended, it reminded me of an Image comic book cliffhanger. I forgot what the name of the comic book was. I'm editing this later, so. I'm obviously going to find the comic book after the fact, and I'll display it right here, the name of the comic book. But I remember a page where a young vampire was wondering about eating people food, and he ate a burger. They went to a restaurant, and he said, eat this, and think about every burger you have ever had in your life, and then take a bite. And then the burger tasted so great to him, and it was like, oh, my God, we can do this? And then he's like, wait for it. And then a few minutes later, he starts vomiting. He starts getting really sick. Like, no, we cannot eat that food anymore. But it was a vampire trick about he was able to remember flavors and stuff. It was a cooler trick. I thought that's kind of where they were going to go, but they didn't. But overall, I thought it was a great episode. I'm not going to do the whole was it better than the episode 1 game or anything like this. I think it feels like, just like the movie, it feels like one drawn out thing now that I know that there's only 7 episodes. I feel this is a short season.
It was a nice backstory and giving you more insight.
Yeah. The best favorite part of the movie, of the episode for you, what was it?
I mean, when he killed the alderman, that was pretty hilarious.
That's it. Yeah, we agree. For the 2 kills, the killing of the opera singer and the killing of the alderman, but the alderman was the favorite.
His statement.
Yeah, he's like, I've heard, because I've even struggled with that. You get to a point where you're in a situation where you're in so much fear, you hear the N-word or something like that. You get to a point where maybe you don't even hear it anymore, especially probably back then, because it was a survival technique. But being transformed into what they call a god, it's like, I'm not dealing with this shit anymore. But the fact that, what did he say? Yeah, this guy chose the wrong day.
Or he was like, since you want to dabble in
And
fuckery today, then
he
that's
decided to dabble in fuckery, and which I was spoiled on because I saw that scene on TikTok before I even saw episode 1. So I was kind of pissed off that I got spoiled on that, because I knew the line was coming. But when I waited for it to hit, because I looked right at you and you laughed so hard, it's like, this guy chose the wrong day to dabble in fuckery. And I like the way he said it in his accent, because that's what we do. We get angry and we'll default back to our default state. He went right back to that, because he doesn't really speak with the accent anymore during the interview. Mm-mm. But when certain parts of the story hit, yes sir, no sir, all that, like it comes right out, and that's what we do. And I also like that moment when Lestat said that he hated English, and then he started to dream in English and stuff, because I like that conversation as well about being bilingual. My friend Jason Rodriguez, his first language was Spanish, and then after a while, he said he forgot when it happened. Even he thinks in English now. It used to be Spanish, but now his default language now in his mind is he dreams and thinks in English first. So I guess it depends on where you roam the longest or something like that. Little stuff like that I like. But I love it. I can't wait. We're gonna try to catch up to. I want to try to get caught up before, so we can do the season finale. The week of. So we're going to try to get through episode 3 through 5 as fast as possible, especially episode 5, because I know some of y'all are trying to test me. But I can't wait to do it. So thank you guys for indulging us with Interview with a Vampire. Keep sending those comments, letting us know what you thought about this particular episode alone. And if there's something to look out for, don't spoil us. Just let us know in the comments. Can't wait to see episode 5, or can't wait till you guys see episode 3 or 4, or something like that. This is gonna blow you away. Pay close attention to this, or something like that, and suggest. But anything that you want us to talk about specifically, put it in the box below, and we'll talk about it. Thanks, babe, for helping me out with the recap of episode 2. So we'll now we can get to bed and chill out. Maybe we can dabble into a little fuckery ourselves. All right, guys. Yeah. Until next time, have a good one, guys.